Hi y'all, this is House Guest and I am your host, Kenzie Elizabeth. Think a Gen Z wannabe Martha Stewart meets Dolly Parton trying to live in a Nancy Meyers movie in her 20s. We talk all about life, relationships, navigating your 20s, closing at the bars, or waking up at 5 a.m. depending on our vibe that week. Ultimately, living our best lives and figuring it out along the way. So come hang out. Sometimes I have guests on who do really cool things, some of my best friends, or it's just me and my house that I spend way too much time in. So let's get into the show. Hi y'all, welcome back to the House Guest Podcast YouTube channel. Before we get started with today's video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if y'all like the episode, be sure to leave a like and a comment. Go ahead and comment right now where y'all are tuning in from. It just really helps our show grow. If y'all are ever interested in any merch links or live shows or emails or anything like that, that is all in our description below. Send this to a friend if y'all like the episode. If you're watching, tag us on social so we can see and repost you. I hope y'all enjoy today's video and let's get started. Hi y'all, welcome back to the House Guest Podcast and happy Thanksgiving. Actually, while we are here, I am grateful for y'all, and I am grateful for Martha Stewart, and that is why we are gathered here today, okay? Before we get into that, though, there will be a lot of Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals. So we're going to insert a little something to give you guys some of the updates because it's actually October 24th as I'm recording this, which I needed to point out for two reasons. One, the Martha doc hasn't come out yet. So if there's anything breaking that I'm missing, please know that I was ill-equipped, and that is not my fault, and I have currently 7 pages of notes on a Google Doc of Martha Stewart that really just kind of free flowed from my brain. It wasn't even a ton of research that I was doing. It was really just me and my noggin, you know? And actually, we have a special source. My manager, Lindsay, she actually worked on Martha's team for years and years. So I asked her for some inside scoop, and she had nothing but glowing reviews for the woman. And also, very friendly reminder to subscribe to my Substack. We are doing amazing things over there, okay? We'll have some stuff on the screen, very exciting things. You guys need to subscribe. Anyways, get ahead. Guys, spend your Thanksgiving with your family, being grateful, eat some food, and do some Black Friday shopping. Black Friday, it turns out, it's literally all of November, okay? It's actually insane what Black Friday has become. But a friend of mine will be having a lot of deals, and then we're also going to be having some merch deals for the podcast. So check it all out. We've already said that. So we're just going to move along, okay? On to the things that I really care about. Hi, y'all. Just wanted to stop in before the episode to tell y'all about our Black Friday, Cyber Monday haul sale for my home brand, a friend of mine. We have everything you need for holiday gifts this season. We've got our recipe journals. We've got our conversation cards. We've got the family cards. You need those for Christmas. We have the book club cards. We have dinner cards. We have our nightcap cards. Honestly, all things you need. We've got needlepoint. We've got accessories. We've got everything that you could possibly need, all right? Starting tomorrow, the 29th to December 2nd, which is Monday, we are doing our Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale, but I'm actually going to open it up as an early access for our house guest listeners. So we will have our early access code in the actual show notes, and y'all can shop the sale early, just in case anything sells out. So we are doing buy two, get one free with free shipping, which obviously that ends up being around like 30% off. Buy two, get one free. Buy four, get two free. Buy six, get three free. I'm like, can't do math anywhere. Buy eight, get four free. I mean, that's kind of a crazy deal. It is time to stock up on your gifts, okay? You need a hostess gift. You need them last minute for White Elephant. You need them all the time, okay? Just stock up. That is what this sale is meant to be. Stock up on your holiday gifts. And then we're also doing 50% off our recipe binders. So those are going to go very quickly. Anyways, just wanted to share that with y'all. And also, before we get into today's episode, which is our Martha Stewart episode, I did just want to say, I have a couple things that I wanted to say before getting into it after watching the documentary, and I'm actually totally blanking on one of them. So I'll probably be making my public statement on Instagram soon. First things first, documentary was incredible. I thought it was so good. I know Martha wasn't super pleased with it, but honestly, I felt like it painted her in the best light ever. I feel so validated because everyone is coming to me to talk about this Martha Stewart documentary, and I'm really loving the recognition. I'm also loving to have more people to talk to about it, okay? Number two, I do say that she's her dad's favorite and that it seemed like they had a really good relationship. Come to find out with this documentary, it seemed like their relationship was a little bit tricky, but she did still say that she was the favorite. Her dad seemed a little scary, okay? So that's that. And then I do also want to say it really made me rethink my original thoughts on the court case, because I just kind of assumed that when the guy came forward, we'll get to that later in this episode. Here's the thing. Even if she did insider trading, which by the way is not what she goes to prison for, like so do half of, like, it's not a good thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing at all, but like there's so many people who do it. So to come for Martha, of course, when she's like the first female sub-billionaire, obviously, okay? But it was very clear in the documentary that they were really just like trying to like make a case out of her and a show out of her. They never found any concrete proof. That's why they weren't able to put her behind bars. So she doesn't even end up going to prison for insider trading, like, which I already knew. But I feel like watching this documentary after I've watched 20 of them really gave me a different perspective, and I feel like she was wronged. I feel like Martha Stewart was so wronged by going to prison. Do I feel like, obviously I know it hurt her business, but like to me, I feel like it made her kind of cooler. I don't know. I just feel like she has done so many incredible things, like from Omni Media to her 100 books. I have her 100th book sitting right next to me, to all of her like TV shows, to like her product lines, her everything, right? So yeah, anyways, I do feel like she was wronged. I'm obviously always Team Martha. I mean, she could have done it and it wouldn't really change my mind at all. Actually, it literally would not change my mind, because I did kind of think she did it before. But just saying, the documentary definitely opened my eyes, and I do feel like they were taking advantage of her, like they were using her, if you will. So anyways, without further ado, let's welcome myself onto the show for a solo episode, the Martha Stewart episode. Martha Stewart. We have historical facts. We have actually a well-written biography here. We have business breakdowns. I'm breaking down the models of how she does things. We have a lot of her celebrity feuds. We have random facts. We have insider knowledge. Like, we've got it all here. Before we even get into Martha's life, I just want to say I think the most impressive thing about Martha Stewart is the fact that she has been able to stay relevant as a woman well into her 80s. Well, she's in her early 80s, but into her 80s in general. For someone to have such a successful career that has lasted for decades and decades, and she's stayed relevant and stayed with the times and honestly been ahead of the times, says so much about her. Also, something people might not realize, because I feel like she gets a very bad rep when it comes to like being a boss online, I guess, is that she has so many team members that have stayed with her for decades as well. Like, her actual like employee retention is very, very, very high, which is very hard to do, I feel like, especially nowadays in digital businesses. And obviously people switch jobs all the time. So to stay with Martha for years and years and years, like, those are the people we need to be talking to. You know what I mean? She famously says, "My business is my life and my life is my business," which I feel that Martha. I love her. I think the world of her. I really admire her, and I love the business that she has built. I think she's a genius. I think she is one of, if not the OG influencer. She really created an avenue around building a business around your life. Like, she is just such a genius, and I mean, I love her. I love her. She's so funny, you know? Well, we'll get to that. I cannot believe I've been talking about Martha Stewart for this long without mentioning season 2, episode 5 of Martha Gardens. Let us not forget. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I have been on Martha Stewart TV. It happened this year. It was probably the best and only good thing that's happened to me this year, okay? It really was everything. I've talked about that on the podcast like previously, but I just one day got an email. It wasn't even because of my manager. Like, you would think the connection. No, I just got an email. I think they saw my gardening content maybe on TikTok or on YouTube or something, I don't know, and they had me on her container gardening episode asking how to have a garden in a small space. So anyways, she obviously embodies like everything that I love. I love homemaking, but you know what? She was actually the OG breadwinning housewife, okay? If you guys don't know, breadwinning housewife is a term that I coined as a joke when I got really into all the like quote domestic things, but I still love like having a business and making money. And I said in 2020 as a joke that I had basically become a breadwinning housewife, except for, you know, I'm obviously not a wife, but you guys understand what the housewife thing means, you know? And it really became this bigger thing that's more of an oxymoron. And the idea behind it is because traditionally breadwinning and housewife would be an oxymoron. They don't typically go together. It's the idea that you can be whatever you want to be, and you could be like an astronaut and also like ballet and also like theater and do all of these things. Like, it doesn't have to like fit societal norms, right? But Martha truly is, at the end of the day, the OG breadwinning housewife. So anyways, enough about me. Besides this, the last thing I will say, I mean, we're going to be talking, this is like a very parasocial relationship that I have here with, my Queen Martha. Watching Martha Stewart's masterclass was a spiritual awakening for me. I felt very similarly to how you feel in like an evangelical church when like the worship's on, like everyone's hands are raised. You know what I mean? Like that is actually exactly how I felt when I was watching Martha Stewart's masterclass. I cannot recommend it enough. I wish there was more episodes. It's so good. It's so calming. It goes really in depth on her businesses. She gives the best advice. She takes you to her house. Like it is everything. It's actually everything. And I loved it. So anyways, I really loved that. And it really felt like I was in an evangelical church and there was like a youth pastor in skinny jeans and like the YSL booths, you know what I mean? There's like smoke machines, spa, there's like electric guitars. Like that is what that masterclass felt like to me. Also, yes, I am in the Martha Moments Facebook group. Obviously, they have some really good finds in there. I really like it. Anyways, I have my laptop. So if y'all are watching on YouTube, and if you aren't, you need to be. It's so much better. It's a really 10 out of 10 experience. I will be looking down at my laptop, but you need to understand that I have treated this as though I have written my college thesis, and I have a lot of facts, we're basically reading a paper, okay? Early childhood years. Born August 3rd, 1941. I was born August 1st, 1997. Second of 6 children. I was the first of 3. Both of her parents were teachers, and then her dad eventually went into pharmaceutical sales. My father was in pharmaceutical sales, okay? Anyway, she grew up in New Jersey. She had a very normal childhood. She also modeled, though, so like not that normal. She started modeling when she was 13. She's said that she has had a weird relationship with her mom, and she also said she was her dad's favorite. She was an avid reader and went to the library all the time, okay? So that's Martha as a kid. She went to college in Manhattan and she earned a degree in European and architectural history. She met Andy Stewart there, her husband, a Yale student, okay? So she fell in love with her classmate's brother, who was Andy Stewart. Now, this was her first real boyfriend, her first real love, and she went home. She told her parents she was getting married, end of her sophomore year of college, I think. Her parents were angry as can be, okay? They did not want her to do that, did not want her to get married. She did it anyways because that's what Martha does, and it kind of worked out, which we'll get into that later. Her parents ended up coming on board with it, and they have this marriage. They have a child, they have Alexis. We'll get to that. So after college, she continues modeling. She's obviously married to Andy. She decided that she wanted to try Wall Street, basically after she had Alexis, and she credits a lot of working on Wall Street to a lot of her work ethic. She says there that she learned that like if you are productive, productivity leads to success, and you can have great success if you stick with anything and stay disciplined. She also says that she built her optimism here by not focusing on setbacks. She ended up ultimately leaving because commissions were being negotiated. She was making a lot of money prior to this. So with these negotiations, she would end up making less. And Martha is a businesswoman, okay? She wasn't down for that. Like when you're a broker, you're starting with zero. So this is a huge hit to her business. Just to give you context, this is like a random thing that I found interesting. So after she left Wall Street, they were living in Connecticut at this home, and she became basically a stay-at-home mom, a housewife. Like that's when she started doing all of her homemaking things. She was working on her house. I believe she was painting her entire house, and she was listening to like the Watergate hearings. She was a great housewife. For about a year, she loved it. She was gardening, she was cooking, she was doing all the things. But eventually, Martha got bored, and this would be when her catering business comes about. So I kind of view this as the beginning of Martha Stewart, but really it's Entertaining, which is her first cookbook that she ends up publishing at 42. So when she had moved to Connecticut originally, that's when she started cooking more. She learned by Julia Child, Mastering the Art of French Cooking, which is crazy because I feel like that's such a classic book. Like, do you think that Julia, this is like the random stuff that I think, do you think that Julia knew that this was going to be when you're writing a book, do you think you know how influential it's going to be to some of the most influential people in the world? You know what I mean? Probably not. So anyways, she ends up starting a catering business. This is in the late 70s, and that business grew into $1 million business. She obviously scales it. She's going into the city. They're doing like really, really big things. They're doing things with the Met. So from there, with her catering business, she ends up publishing her first book, which is Entertaining. Now, this is when it said that Martha knew that she struck a chord with the American woman. This book does very well, and it's really the kickstart of Martha's career. Again, this is when she's 41 years old. Another thing about her longevity and just genius is, one, to start something that new at 41 is so cool, but we all put so much pressure on ourselves, or at least I do, to have everything done by like 30, or even when I was younger, I wanted things done by like 25 or 20. It was so insane, the amount of pressure, and it almost feels like it's a ticking time bomb and you're going to run out of time and you're not going to be able to achieve anything. Martha Stewart didn't even really begin until she was 41, which is so cool. Obviously, her life really prepared her for that, but the actual career portion of Martha Stewart on her own as her own entity was the book Entertaining that was published when she was 41 years old. Martha essentially made homemaking an art form. Things like laundry and cooking, things that were gardening, yard work, things that were seen as chores and very like dreadful to do became things that honestly became art. People were very excited about them, started taking pride in them. It really changed the landscape of the homemaker just generally. Another thing that's insane is that there was no computer during this time, okay? She bought her first computer when she was in, I think it was the year of 1982. So Martha Stewart began, there's no computer, all right? And now, like, this is why you have no excuse to not get with the times. She started this career before there were even laptops, and now she's talking about, she's on everything. She is everywhere digitally, and she's talking about things that we don't even understand yet. So from the book, she ends up getting this Kmart deal. A lot of this stuff, I'm giving you guys a very brief overview of her life, and then we'll get into the other stuff. She gets her Kmart deal. The Kmart deal is a very, very big deal at the time. Maybe now you're like, okay, Kmart, I don't really understand. You have to understand that at that time, Kmart was Target. Like, Kmart was the best of the best as far as department stores like that. It was the top of its game, and they wanted a whole line with Martha. So she had her sheets, she had everything. And this was a really good price point. She always says, like, I want people to, live very well and have great products, but also still be able to, like, go on a vacation and afford their lives versus, charging them, like, $700 for sheets. Okay, so she continues on, and it's Martha Stewart Living Omni Media. They go public in October of 1999. The initial IPO raised $1.9 billion, and the stock price tripled in value before closing. So this makes Martha the first self-made female billionaire in the US, which is insane. I want to go through like Martha Stewart Living and what I find to be so fascinating about it. So this is what I got from the masterclass. There is this like circle web thing, okay? And at the center, it's Martha Stewart Living Omni Media. And that's crafts, holidays, keeping, weddings, home, cooking, entertaining, gardening. In the next circle, it's cable television, books, radio, newspaper, network television. Next circle, mass market, catalog, national department stores, specialty retailers. Next circle, it's e-commerce, community, content, television, free internet access. And then she's talking about like going into the future, just everything that they do. It's actually crazy. And then there's like obviously her whole licensing. The actual business breakdown is so brilliant. Here's just like a little day in Martha's life, okay? Her morning routine, she wakes up at 5 a.m. She does Pilates, she showers, moisturizes, drinks some green juice, sits for hair and makeup. She reads the news, and she works on these little puzzles. Her afternoon schedule, she has her culinary product review, household product line review, gardening apparel review, the Martha Stewart podcast recording, back to Bedford. This is obviously just a specific day. She lives in Bedford on a farm that's like so absolutely stunning. I can't even talk about it. Like where Martha lives is actually my dream. And then this evening, she was going back to Bedford, check on board cutting at the sawmill, review progress on the turkey coop, meeting with Kevin Sharkey, read the 100th book. Oh yeah, that's actually crazy. She's also published 100 books. And then treats for the animals. She gets driven in and out of the city. She says she receives about 300 to 400 emails a day, which is crazy. She tries to read all of them. So she does a lot of her emails and text messages and phone calls. She's more of a phone call girl in the car. She says she really tries to do what's asked of her. She rarely cancels. If she's tired, she won't admit it. She's going to continue to finish her day, and that helps a lot when you're building a business. What I took from that is that the small habits become the big things, okay? Your word, this is actually something I should have put in my 13 life lessons that have dramatically improved my life. At the end of the day, your word is everything. And this also goes back to trust and confidence. And, confidence is what making promises to yourself and keeping them. We talk about this in pretty much every single episode. But when your word means nothing, you have nothing at the end of the day. Think about the friends that you make plans with, you know that they're going to flake. Like, you never, ever, ever want to be that person. And Martha's not that person, okay? But I also think it goes to a way bigger thing. Yeah, sure, maybe you don't care if you're flaking on your friends, but eventually you'll be flaking in work. The small things become the big things. You just can't do that. It's a bad thing. Get it? Martha Stewart in Gen Z needs to be studied. Not only has she been so brilliant when it comes to anything like digital media, YouTube, podcasting, TikTok, Instagram, like she very much so understands the like attention market, the attention currency. She's going where the eyeballs are going. She's never taken herself out of anything. She's always going where the eyeballs are, which is the most brilliant thing ever. And you could easily see someone who was in their 70s or 80s either not wanting to do it or not wanting to change their ways. And Martha has not done that, okay? But not only has she done that, she has done very genius things, like her show with Snoop Dogg, okay? I feel like that, a combination of her friendship with Snoop Dogg and the Justin Bieber roast really brought her to Gen Z in a way that I don't think she would really be as big had she not done those two things. Her show and banter with Snoop Dogg, so good, so funny. The Justin Bieber roast, she killed it. I feel like watching that roast, she was definitely the underdog of that roast. It's still talked about to this day. And a combination of both of those things made her so brilliant and always with the times. When I say with the times, I feel like it's like the same thing as saying hip or something, but it's okay. All right, so we need to get into the jail stint. I think that Martha Stewart going to jail is the least interesting thing about her. There's so many other things, but I do want to get into this because actually her going to jail is very different than what most people think. I hear a lot of the time it's like, oh, people think it's just insider trading, or they think like she just didn't snitch on people, and that's not exactly what happened. So here we are, said jail stint. Kind of over it. But I will be sharing with the class because this is important, okay? Okay, so ImClone, I don't even know if that's the correct way to say that. ImClone System was a biopharmaceutical company in which Martha owned stock. One of her friends was the CEO, and she felt it was, in good faith to like invest in her friend's company, okay? She ended up selling 4,000 of those shares on December 27th, the day before the FDA refused to review the ImClone System's cancer drug, which essentially just like didn't get approved. So obviously, once that becomes public knowledge, their stock is going to plummet, okay? The company's stock obviously suffered once this was announced. There were a lot of others who sold millions in stocks prior to this announcement, so it raised concern, and that's where the investigation began. So again, the CEO of ImClone, Martha's friend, Sam Waxal, we'll just call him Sam, instructed his broker, Peter, who is also Martha's broker, to transfer $4.9 million in the stocks to his daughter. His daughter also requested $2.5 million of that to be sold. Sam's ends up getting blocked by the brokerage firm Merrill Lynch, the one that he tried to transfer to his daughter. That gets blocked, okay? Phone records show that Peter called Martha's office on December 27th after the daughter sold the shares. Stewart's stock was sold 10 minutes later, okay? So Sam gets arrested June 12th on charges of insider trading, obstruction of justice, and bank fraud, security fraud, perjury charges. There's like a bunch, okay? He originally pleads innocent, but he finally like goes back and is like, okay, I'm guilty. And he ends up getting 6 of those 13 charges. He ends up serving 5 years out of the 7-year sentence. So Martha denies all of this. She says that she didn't hear from them. On December 27th, she said she was flying in her private jet to Mexico with some friends for vacation. Says on the way, she called her office to see if there were any messages from her. Peter called saying her stock had dropped and wanted to get ahead of it. Peter's assistant originally backed this claim and said that's what happened, but eventually comes clean and says, no, we told them what was going on. We said, Sam just sold all of his stock, so you should probably sell yours as well if he is the CEO of the company. He just sold his, which is insider trading. So again, Peter's assistant, who was originally backing Martha's claim, eventually comes clean and pleads guilty to a misdemeanor charge on October 2nd. Martha then resigns from the New York Stock Exchange the next day, where she was a board member. Long story short, they couldn't prove that the stop-loss order was her original story, and Stewart said she sold ImClone to increase her own company's stock and constituted securities fraud, basically. Had Martha waited, this is the crazy thing. So she actually ends up going to jail essentially over like $41,000, when at the time this woman is worth like $600 million, which is insane. She still doesn't feel like she should have gone to prison. And listen, Martha, I love you. I'll back you. I don't care what you do. I love her. But this is the crime that ends up happening, right? Had Martha just waited until December 31st, she could have just sold her stock, collected $180,000 and not raised any concerns. That is just $48,000 less than what her sale was on the 27th. Martha continued to deny any wrongdoing, but it ends up slashing 70% of the stock price in Omni Media, which is her company, and washed a quarter of her net worth allegedly. Listen, Martha's doing just fine now. She came out on top, okay? She was originally worth $650 million, okay? So she was found guilty on 4 counts of obstructing justice and lying to investigators. So it wasn't even insider trading. It's essentially because she wasn't working with them and telling the truth. She gets 5 months in prison and then 2 years supervised release and a $30,000 fine. Okay, so that is like so interesting to me. And another thing about Martha that is so cool and she's so resilient is that not even her going to prison as America's housewife can like keep her down. You know, if anything, she's only more famous. She's only richer. She's only more successful. She still has this career at 80. In media, women are terrified to even turn 30 because they think no one's going to be interested in them. They're not going to be booking any roles. They're not going to get hired for any jobs. And Martha has created this empire herself that really doesn't work without Martha. It's very streamlined. There's obviously so many other people she's brought into the business, which we're going to get to that. But Martha Stewart living cannot exist, obviously, outside of Martha Stewart. I mean, they can do anything, but she not only is the face of her brand in the entire thing, it can't operate without her. And she's also still doing that at 81, which is so unbelievably crazy. Not only just doing that at 81, doing that when she is, an ex-con, which is crazy because she was America's housewife, which I think made her cooler to the public. Like, I feel like, and listen, I love her. I absolutely love her, but it didn't, to anyone else, I feel like they would have crumbled and it would have been over with. And she said, no, she went up there and she said, she listed off all of her pets and said, I hope that I'm back. I need to make it back in order to prep for the spring garden. Like, that's actually what she said, which is obviously like an appeal to the public to like make her seem like innocent and not like, how could this woman who gardens do this? You know what I mean? Like, commit a crime. Oh, scary. I have an entire page of Martha Stewart feuds too, which we're going to get to at the end of this episode. I just need to let you guys know there's actually a lot, okay? So from my source, otherwise known as my manager, Lindsay Pierce, who worked for Martha and on her team for years, she sent over like a 20-minute audio message, and I took a lot of notes from what she said, just as someone who's worked for her. I just asked, like, what are things that are unique, basically that aren't maybe like seen on Google. You know, I've watched every single Martha Stewart documentary there is, every interview, every like biography. Anytime someone like creates something on her, I'm always like reading, learning, listening because I love her, okay? But I wanted something else, and we got that from Lindsay. So Lindsay says Martha really loves luxury, but not in a very materialistic way. She's the most unique and specific person. She just thinks about life in such a special, like unique way. And luxury is like her entire process, but she loves to make everything so special. And she has the ability to make everything so, so special. When she was giving examples of like she loves luxury, but not in a materialistic way. She's like, for example, she'll be like on this crazy vacation and eat salt here and have it made and then come back and then it'll be on like this specific recipe that she's using this salt. It's like little moments like that that's making everything that she's doing day to day more special, which I think, again, really rings true when you think back to how she has made homemaking, which typically consists of very like dreadful chores, she's made it an art form, right? She's so involved in the business, sees everything very routine. She wakes up at like 3:30 or 4, does everything the same every single day. She's incredibly routine and she's automated her entire life so that she's able to be creative. Says always you have to automate certain things in your life in order to be creative in the other ways or the other areas. She's the ultimate beauty queen, loves her facials and skincare. She has a really good eye. Her relationship with Kate Spade's really interesting. So they were both getting started. She became this household name obviously in this whole like housewife thing. Men really didn't know what to do with her because she was this very rich, very successful housewife at the end of the day. And I don't feel like anyone was really taking her seriously as the businesswoman that she is. She launches Kate. I'm kind of getting this story wrong, even though I've heard it a bunch, but she basically launches these like micro bags with Kate Spade. And that's how Kate Spade was created or like launched her career. She's able to see people and launch them into things, like into different career paths or influences, just from her own influence, being able to impact someone else's life so much. Like, that's such a dream, to be able to have so much influence that you are able to completely change someone else's life around you. Like, if you see the potential in them and the talent and the skill that they have, and you have that influence to be able to do that for them, like, that is so amazing. And obviously, because she has the most insane influence, she's been able to do that with so many people. In that case, she's very, very powerful. She says she doesn't need to yell, nods yes or no. She's very funny. She's very efficient. The only person really even to compare, I think, how she built her business would be Oprah. Like, there's really no one else that's even in that kind of same avenue. And you also cannot remove her from her business. Like, Omni is wild. And then she has her licensing team. She sold half of Omni Media for growth. So she hired Darcy, which I follow Darcy on Instagram, Kevin, and then they have Sarah Carey. And Sarah Carey is now like known as Martha Stewart chef. So these are experts in these fields, and she really made them like somewhat famous in her own publications, and they all have their own careers. So instead of just making them editors, she made them experts on these platforms. This is also something that I think is really cool. I feel like a lot of the time people are very threatened by others and they want to be the big thing, but Martha didn't want them to just be like behind the scenes editors. She wanted them to be like faces of things and really kind of expand and learn more from them, learn more with them, teach more with them. She saw the value in teamwork and being able to grow, and she made them like personalities within like Martha Stewart Living, and they've been able to do so many other things, which I think is a really cool thing about her. So again, instead of making them editors, she makes them experts on these platforms with different point of views that ultimately supported her own. They were really normal, relatable people who then became the faces for Martha Stewart Living, which I feel like really resonated with so many like American people. Oh my God, she always talks about the Omni Media office and how it's like a literal Pinterest board. This is my dream, is to go to the Holiday House and Omni Media office. Those are the two places I need to go. The test kitchen is always buzzing. They're working 6 months ahead. So they're doing, Christmas in the summer, which is a dream. There's a craft room. The hallway leading up to the test kitchen is like lined with pots and pans. There's a prop closet. It's a very, very hands-on environment. Martha has just created this very intricate masterpiece web where you can't even take Martha out of it, but there's so many other things happening all at once. She's very efficient. Like, if I could sit down with Martha, I would ask, like, even more specifically, I would be the most interested for myself, for my own personal gain. I'd be the most interested in what she would say about her actual day-to-day schedule, like very, 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 very detailed. And then also I'm very interested on the structure of the business. Obviously, I share what I know because that's the stuff that I've read about and like seen in masterclass, but I'm just really interested to even just see how her brain works and how she's set everything up. She has created such a successful business that not even going to jail for really like insider trading could really do anything to them. Sure, it obviously tainted her name for a little bit, but I think in the long run, it actually like gave her like weird street cred that people liked and made her more interesting and made her more famous. And it didn't end up it didn't end up taking down her empire, which is crazy. Lindsay says she went to her house 3 different times, and she was the admin at the office at that time that served her team in one of her like SVPs. Her house was a heavenly experience. Animals everywhere. You enter through the stables with the horses. She's never alone. There's so many people that work for her. And she said she got, what did she say? Martha Margarita, not wasted, something like that. Martha made them like freshly squeezed margaritas, and it was just everything. Like, Martha's living my dream life and like what I want to be doing. And she is just like amazing. I love her. I'm obsessed, incredible. And now let's get on to the feuds, okay? Because she's got quite a few. We actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We've got 12 feuds, and I'm going to give you guys some little intel on. So this is from the article, Famous People Martha Stewart Cannot Stand, and it's on MASH, okay? Most recently, y'all have probably seen the Ina Garten beef everywhere. I'm actually currently listening to Ina Garten's audiobook, and I haven't listened to it, haven't gotten to this part yet. I guess in the book, she says, because if you know the context and the backstory, you'll understand why. She says that her and Martha, their friendship really drifted when she moved from Connecticut. I believe that's whenever either one of them moved away from Connecticut, something like that. And that's when their friendship ended. Martha, when she goes to jail, she is very petty on who visits her and who does not. And she's very clear on that. She doesn't appreciate Oprah's letters. It wasn't enough. She says, oh, those cute little wish you well cards. Like, she really holds stock in who visited her in the prison, right? Because Ina Garten did not visit her in prison, Martha Stewart decides like the friendship's over, okay? But after that, when Martha gets out and is saying that, Ina goes back and says, we really drifted. We haven't really been friends since we were living in Connecticut together, which Martha says is not true. So that is the Ina Garten beef, okay? The next one, my personal favorite Martha Stewart beef would be her beef with Gwyneth Paltrow. This all began when Martha was asked about Goop, and Martha essentially says that Gwyneth needs to stay in her lane of acting, okay? Paltrow responds and says, I'm honestly just psyched she sees this as a competition. People are not taking things like too personally from Martha. Shortly after, Martha releases a recipe and names it conscious coupling. If you guys are familiar with the unconscious coupling lore, that is what Gwyneth Paltrow said about her divorce with Chris Martin, so it was very, very funny. And then in response, Goop publishes a recipe, I think it's called, jailbird cake. So that's actually really funny. I like that lore a lot. And then like years later, Martha's on Watch What Happens Live. Andy asks about the beef and she ends up replying like, who's Goop? So I don't really know where they're at personally, but I did find the like recipe feud. Like that's the kind of internet drama I want to be in, like a recipe feud. You know what I mean? The Rachel Ray one, it does kind of make me sad, honestly. I can only imagine that Rachel Ray probably loved Martha Stewart. Stewart basically disses Rachel Ray on Dateline, I think, or Nightline, not Dateline. Not Dateline, on Nightline, to be clear, okay? And she says that her stuff is a lot of like a re-edit of Martha's old recipes, okay? Keep in mind too, Martha is from a different generation. Like if people were doing and saying this stuff now, I would be like, this is embarrassing and like you don't own things and relax and like not embarrassing, but I would just be like, okay, like let's relax. But she's from a generation where you had to really like, we support women now. Like we're all, we see that we can bring each other all up. Win for one is win for the other. This was a different time. And that's important context to give because let's not knock Martha here, okay? So she says that a lot of her recipes are re-edits of Martha's old recipes. Again, we've got some recipe drama. She says she's more of an entertainer than a teacher like me. Later says, I applaud Rachel for her enthusiastic approach to cooking. Rachel Ray comes back and says, look, I would rather have Martha's food too. Like, it's fine. So she has some drama with Trump because of The Apprentice, which this is like crazy. So now it's like literally the former president of the United States of America, okay? So this is like actually crazy. This is Martha Stewart's beef with Donald Trump, okay? In 2005, Martha is getting her own version of The Apprentice, which is at the time Trump's reality show. Martha is upset because the shows are premiering at the same time, which obviously is not good for ratings. The jabs don't stop there. So Trump writes a public letter to Stewart going on a tirade about her show. You can only imagine the things he was saying, accusing her of lying about her supposed on-air firing as she lied to investigators before going to prison. Okay, low blow. Trump continued to bash her performance, emphasizing, I knew it would fail as soon as I saw it, okay? Even though Stewart's show does get cut after the first season, she says the biggest blow was the mean-spirited and reckless words from her longtime friend, Donald Trump. This is in 2005. The feud remained strong and bitter for years after. Eventually, I guess Stewart reaches out to Ivanka Trump after like the 2016 election. I can only imagine she didn't want the president of the United States going after her, which I wouldn't put past him. But that is their feud. Bethany Frankel. I see this one on TikTok. So Bethany Frankel's feud with Martha Stewart. So before she had her big break on Bravo, Frankel competed on Martha Stewart's edition of Celebrity Apprentice in 2005. Sparks did not fly between the two. They absolutely hated each other. Oh, Martha would call her a show-off and faulting her for needing to make a physical impression. Okay. This isn't the only time Stewart ripped into Frankel in an interview on Frankel's TV show. Bethany, Stewart bluntly, this actually is a very uncomfortable thing to watch. Stewart bluntly explained that Frankel didn't win her season of Celebrity Apprentice because she was too unlikable, which is the worst thing you can say about someone. It's worse. She said she was an unlikable pest. Even after Frankel's found all the success, Stewart is, criticizing her, Her feud, Martha Stewart's feud with Oprah Winfrey. Martha has some beef with Oprah, essentially because Oprah did not go visit her when she was in prison. Thought, I knew you were too busy. I appreciated the little well wishes cards because Oprah was writing her letters in prison and Martha never got back to them because a letter was not enough for Martha, which I'm on Martha's side depending on the level of relationship they're at, proximity. I think your closest people in your life, should be visiting you in prison. Martha has some drama with Food God. Who doesn't? This is actually really funny. They were at some dinner, I guess, and she posted, I was sitting next to Food God. This is back when he was friends with the Kardashians. He was on Keeping Up. And she posted a photo of him, I guess he was sitting next to her or something, and asked who is this man I'm sitting next to him at dinner? Sometimes their age does show, and that is so funny. Martha's feud with Blake Lively. Blake Lively comes out with this kind of lifestyle blog kind of vibe. Martha says, let her try. I don't mean that facetiously. It's stupid. She could be an actress. Why would you want to be me if you could be an actress? Martha is very territorial of like having created what she's created. And it doesn't seem like she has been very friendly with anyone who's tried to come up and like do anything similarly. Like I do worry that she would hate me just because I'm like saying how much I love her and I want to be her and all these things. Cause I think that she's definitely the type to be like, there is no the next Martha Stewart. Like I'm not trying to do that. I just love her and I am very inspired by her life, but I don't think she takes very well to that. There's a couple other feuds if you guys want to go read up on those yourself. But those are the main ones I feel like that you guys should be aware of. Overall, what I think we should be taking from Martha Stewart and her life and her career is that it is never too late to start something new. You can have this crazy dream career, and also her ability to pivot and really stay with the time and go where the eyeballs go while also building this massive business, knowing who to hire, how to build out the teams. Like she's just so brilliant and I love her. I could do, again, like an entire podcast period, like a whole podcast on Martha and go into like her, like everything else about her. I love her so much, but that's just like everything that I felt like y'all needed to know. Those are the bullet points that I typically give to someone when I'm telling them about all the like Martha Stewart lore because I'm, obsessed with her. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If y'all liked this episode, I have 2 episodes that I think you guys would really like. The first one being you are not behind, a list of people or examples of people who found success, quote, later in life. I give nonstop examples of people who started their really, really successful careers at like 40 on. So if you're ever feeling behind or overwhelmed or scared or lost, that's such a good episode. And then the second one would be 13 pieces of life advice that have dramatically improved my life. If you guys are new to this podcast, that's a really good episode to go listen to because you kind of do like the house guest glossary, so you guys are like in the know on everything. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, the Martha Stewart episode. She is my dream podcast guest, so let's like really tag her in some things, see what we can do here. If you know anyone, if you know a guy, let me know. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. Happy Thanksgiving, and I will talk to y'all next week.